In a world where truth hides behind polished screens and smiling faces, reality itself has become the ultimate illusion. We wake, work, sleep, and repeat, never realizing that what we call life might only be a flicker in a vast holographic deception. This documentary will tear through the surface of that illusion. We'll explore the origins of the control system, a matrix so perfectly designed that even our doubts are part of its architecture. We'll uncover the reptilian bloodlines that shape-shift behind power, the frequencies that form the illusion we call matter, and the interdimensional entities feeding on our fear. Stay with me until the end. And if you value the courage to question everything, remember to subscribe, like this video, share it with those ready to awaken, and leave your thoughts below. Now let's begin. Across centuries, empires have risen and fallen, yet the same unseen hand seems to write their destinies. Behind presidents and kings, generals and bankers, there exists a shadow lineage. A bloodline whispered about in the oldest texts and sacred traditions, appearing in myths as gods, in modern history as rulers, and in truth as something far more ancient. This chapter begins with what the ancients called the Serpent Kings. Civilizations from Sumer to Egypt, from the Indus Valley to Mesoamerica, spoke of beings who descended from the stars, entities, part human, part reptile, who bred with humanity to create hybrid bloodlines. These bloodlines, they said, would rule humanity in their image, generation after generation. The ancient Sumerians named them the Anunnaki. In India, they were the Nagas, serpentine deities capable of shifting between human and reptilian form. In Mesoamerican myth, they appeared as Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who brought knowledge to man. And in Africa, among the Zulu, the shamans still speak of the Chitauri, the children of the serpent. The story repeats across continents and millennia, not as allegory, but as memory. These entities were described as shapeshifters, able to mask their form behind human eyes. Many ancient initiates warned that these hybrids ruled not through compassion, but through deception. They were said to have seeded human societies with hierarchy, ritual, and obsession with control, systems that mirrored the cold, calculating traits of the reptile brain itself. Science acknowledges that within each of us lies the R complex, the oldest part of our brain. It governs survival, aggression, ritualistic behavior, and the instinct to dominate. It is reptilian in structure and function, the echo of something prehistoric within us. Could it be more than evolution? Could it be inheritance? Throughout recorded history, certain royal and aristocratic families claimed divine right to rule, not through wisdom, but through blood. They traced their lineage to the gods, who came from the heavens. In Egypt, the pharaohs said they were descended from Ra. In China, emperors called themselves sons of the dragon. In Europe, the royal houses intermarried obsessively to preserve a pure line. But what if this purity wasn't about nobility, but genetic compatibility? Many cultures described these ancient rulers as able to walk among humans unseen, shifting their form at will. Some witnesses across time and geography spoke of eyes that turned cold and unblinking, of faces momentarily revealing scales or slit pupils, before snapping back into human appearance. These stories were dismissed as myth, madness, or hallucination. But what if they weren't? The pattern is relentless. From the political elite to corporate dynasties, certain families maintain influence century after century, generation after generation, while the masses change, vote, and die, believing their voices matter. Control doesn't need to announce itself. It thrives through continuity, through a bloodline that never leaves the throne, even when the faces change. The hybrid theory suggests that these bloodlines were engineered to serve as vessels, interfaces, between human reality and something beyond it. Entities existing outside the visible spectrum of human perception. They operate on frequencies just beyond our five senses, able to influence thoughts, decisions, and global events through their hosts. The physical form is only a mask. Behind it moves an intelligence, ancient, calculating, and entirely emotionless. When people speak of possession, they're unknowingly describing this same phenomenon. It isn't demonic in the religious sense. It's energetic. These beings synchronize with the host's frequency, merging consciousness and steering behavior. And because they lack empathy, morality, and compassion, they are capable of the unthinkable. To them, humanity is not kin, but a resource. They feed, it is said, not on flesh but on emotion. Specifically, fear. For fear emits a frequency that sustains them. In the same way that electricity powers machines, human emotion powers their domain. Wars, suffering, and chaos are not random. They are harvested. Every act of terror, every media frenzy of despair, is fuel for an unseen mechanism. Look around. The patterns of control are the same today as in the ancient world. A ruling class insulated from consequence. A population conditioned to obedience through religion, politics, and fear. And behind the illusion of progress, the same hierarchies that began with the serpent gods. Some researchers refer to this system as the archontic network, from the Greek word archon, meaning ruler or authority. In Gnostic writings, the archons were parasitic entities who created a false reality, a counterfeit version of the divine creation, to enslave humanity in ignorance. Their greatest weapon was illusion. Their greatest fear, that humanity might awaken and see the cage for what it is. When the ancients carved serpents into their temples, they weren't celebrating snakes. They were recording history. When shamans spoke of beings from the space between worlds, they were describing a dimension that modern science might call interdimensional frequency. And when the bloodlines declared their right to rule, they were simply enforcing the oldest contract on Earth, the pact between mankind and its hidden masters. The illusion of democracy, of freedom, of human progress, all air branches from the same ancient root. Each generation believes it is free because it cannot see the invisible chains forged not from iron, but from perception. The story of the serpent isn't just myth. It's a mirror. It reflects what we've become. Aspices asleep, ruled by those who never sleep. And until we remember who we are beyond the body, beyond the name, beyond the illusion, the architects of deception will continue their reign, unseen yet omnipresent. This is where our descent into the hidden begins. Because if the reptilian origins are real, if the elite truly are vessels for entities beyond our sight, then everything we believe about history, power, and reality itself must be rewritten. And perhaps it already has been. If the hidden rulers of this world are not fully human, then how do they maintain their presence here, unseen yet omnipresent? How do they govern nations, direct wars, and influence billions while existing just beyond the reach of our senses? The answer lies in interfacing. Not through machines, but through consciousness, the most sophisticated technology in existence. These entities, according to the oldest teachings, do not reside within our frequency band. They exist just beyond it, in a layer of reality that vibrates outside the spectrum our five senses can perceive. To us, they are invisible. To them, we are an open book, energetic fields of thought and emotion they can tap into, manipulate, and occupy. Human perception is narrow. Our eyes see less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our ears hear only a tiny fraction of the frequencies that fill the air around us. What we call the physical world is merely a sliver of infinite existence, a radio station we're tuned to. Beyond it lies an ocean of other frequencies, other forms of life unseen but ever present. Just as you can turn a radio dial and shift from one broadcast to another without moving an inch, these entities shift between dimensions, slipping in and out of our reality by tuning themselves to our frequency. When conditions are right, when fear, violence, or trauma lower human vibrational states, they can temporarily synchronize with a host body. In that moment, the human and the entity merge. The person remains outwardly the same, but the consciousness behind the eyes has changed. Many ancient cultures describe this process. Shamans spoke of possession, a force taking over the body, feeding through it, speaking through it. The Christian tradition rebranded it as demonic possession. The Gnostics called it archondous interference. But beneath the different languages and rituals, the phenomenon is the same: a parasitic consciousness feeding through a host. Not all hosts are equal. The interbreeding of the ancient world, the merging of human and reptilian DNA, created hybrid bloodlines that could sustain these possessions more easily. Their genetic frequency was compatible, allowing the interface to remain stable. For them, possession wasn't a temporary intrusion. It was a symbiosis. The entity could occupy that body for a lifetime, subtly directing its actions and emotions without detection. These hybrids rose to power in the earliest civilizations. They became kings, priests, emperors, the intermediaries between gods and men. They ruled not through armies, but through perception. Their command of ritual and symbolism became tools of energetic control, designed to anchor human consciousness in lower vibrational states of fear and obedience. Over centuries, as humanity developed technologies and governments, these same bloodlines adapted. They shifted from temples to thrones, and from thrones to parliaments and corporations. Always above, always unseen, always ruling through deception. To understand how possession operates, we must first understand the human body itself. What we call the body is not solid matter. It is energy vibrating within a field. Every thought, emotion, and belief alters that vibration. Love, gratitude, and joy create high-frequency states that are luminous and expansive. Fear, hatred, and guilt lower the vibration, compressing the energy field, creating density. And density is the bridge. When a person is consumed by fear or rage, their vibrational state drops, creating openings in their energy field. Through these openings, lower dimensional entities can attach themselves. They don't need to invade, they simply match frequencies. They sync to the host's emotional wavelength and merge consciousness. From that point on, the person's thoughts are no longer entirely their own. Subtle impulses, sudden mood shifts, destructive decisions, these become the fingerprints of the possessing force. It's not the dramatic Hollywood version of possession. It's quieter, more efficient, more insidious. The politician who authorizes mass killing without emotion. The CEO who destroys lives for profit without remorse. The soldier who kills children and sleeps soundly afterward. These are not human responses, they are reptilian. The eyes reveal the truth. Across testimonies from witnesses spanning cultures and decades, one trait repeats: the eyes. People describe them as cold, unblinking, emotionless. A mask of humanity overlaying a void. The face may smile, the voice may charm, but the gaze never warms. It is the look of a predator observing prey. What drives such beings? They are not motivated by wealth because they create money. They are not motivated by power because they already rule. They are motivated by sustenance. They feed on energy, the raw emotional current emitted by human suffering. Fear is their food, anger their wine, despair their feast. Each act of cruelty, Each tragedy broadcast on screens across the world generates an energetic harvest. And that harvest sustains them. This is why they manipulate events that keep humanity in perpetual fear. Wars, economic collapses, pandemics, political chaos all serve the same master. As long as humans vibrate in fear, the power supply remains constant. Fear traps consciousness in the lowest frequency of being, severing connection to the higher awareness where truth resides. Think of the global system as an energetic pyramid. At the base, billions of humans live in anxiety, guilt, or anger. Their emotional energy rises upward, feeding the middle layers, institutions, religions, governments, until it reaches the apex, where the hidden rulers dwell. From there, the energy is harvested and converted into power. This is how control is maintained. And yet, this interface is fragile, because it depends entirely on our consent. We are not prisoners, we are participants in the illusion. We build the walls that confine use every time we believe their version of reality. We empower the parasite every time we surrender to fear. The ancient mystery schools understood this. Their initiates were taught to raise their vibration through knowledge, meditation, and alignment with truth. In doing so, they became immune to possession. Their frequency simply became too high for the lower entities to attach. This is why secret societies were created, to hide such knowledge from the masses. Over time, those societies were infiltrated, inverted, and used as tools of control. The wisdom that could free humanity was turned into the very weapon that enslaved it. There are whispers among the initiated that possession doesn't only happen to individuals, it can occur at the collective level. When an entire society is conditioned to fear, hatred, and division, its group consciousness becomes a feeding ground. Riots, wars, and media hysteria are not accidents. They are orchestrated feeding events. And in those moments, the veil between worlds thins, allowing the interdimensional architects to feed directly on the psychic energy of the masses. Some traditions call this the harvest. Others simply call it life as we know it. But the mechanism of possession has a weakness: awareness. When the host recognizes the intrusion, when the mind awakens to the manipulation, the vibration shifts. Light floods the dark corners. The parasite loses its grip. This is why awakening is feared above all else by the controllers. It is not rebellion they dread, it is remembrance. Because once humanity remembers who it truly is, the interface dissolves. In this unseen war, knowledge is the only weapon. Understanding frequency, consciousness, and emotion. This is the firewall that protects against manipulation. It's not about fighting darkness with force. It's about transcending the vibration in which darkness operates. The rulers of this world are masters of illusion. They can distort perception, rewrite history, and even fabricate reality, but they cannot touch the frequency of truth. Truth exists beyond their reach in the infinite consciousness from which all things emerge. And every human being, no matter how broken or conditioned, still carries a spark of that infinite awareness within. That spark is the key. When we remember that we are not the body, not the mind, but consciousness experiencing both, the parasite loses its food source. Fear dissolves. And with it, the entire architecture of control begins to crumble. Possession is real, but so is liberation. And the moment we reclaim our perception, we reclaim our world. Imagine waking from a dream only to realize that you're still dreaming, and the dream you thought was reality is itself the prison. That's the condition of humanity. We live inside an invisible cage, not of iron or concrete, but of perception. A system designed to convince us that illusion is truth, that servitude is freedom, and that limitation is natural. This cage has a name, The Matrix. Not a digital simulation in the science fiction sense, but a living energetic web, a frequency field that encases human consciousness in a narrow band of perception. It's a broadcast, a program, an artificial signal transmitted through culture, media, language, and even our biology. And it tells us over and over, you are small. You are powerless. You are separate. That belief is the foundation of control. When we look at the world, we assume our senses show us reality. But science itself admits they do not. Our eyes capture a tiny fraction of light frequencies. Our ears hear a sliver of sound waves. Everything beyond that, which is almost everything, remains unseen. We perceive less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum, yet we call it the real world. What if the Matrix is everything beyond that spectrum, operating invisibly yet dictating everything we think is real? What if what we call reality is only a filtered frequency band tuned to a certain vibration, much like a radio locked to one station? Beyond that band lies infinity. Dimensions upon dimensions of existence occupying the same space, unseen only because our receivers, our senses, are tuned too narrowly. If you could turn the dial of your perception even slightly, you would discover that the world you believe solid is merely one layer of a much larger holographic construct. The Matrix is not an external prison. It is a program running in the human mind. Its code is belief. Its hardware is the human nervous system. And its operators are the unseen forces who feed on our obedience to the illusion. Through mass conditioning, they have taught us to identify completely with the body and the mind. We are told, you are your name, your job, your race, your religion. We are trained to define ourselves by what divides us, not what unites us. In doing so, we become fragments, disconnected droplets in an infinite ocean. And that disconnection is the Matrix. Every droplet forgets that it is water, believing instead that it is separate. And when a droplet forgets it is the ocean, it can be controlled. The Matrix thrives on this forgetfulness. It programs division, left against right, believer against skeptic, race against race, because division generates fear and fear sustains the field. It persuades us that we are victims of random chaos, when in truth we are creators of our experience. As long as we believe reality happens to us, rather than through us, the illusion stands unchallenged. It's not just ideology that builds the cage, it's also perception itself. We are trained from birth to see the world as solid and external, a material construct governed by laws beyond our control. But at the quantum level, matter does not exist as solid substance. Atoms are mostly empty space. And what appears solid is only vibration, energy slowed down to a frequency that our senses decode as form. The world around us is not physical, it's energetic. Our brains act as frequency decoders, translating waveforms into the illusion of solidity, color, and texture. When you touch a table, you're not feeling wood. You're feeling the energetic interpretation your brain produces. Everything is vibration, and vibration is information. Change the vibration, and the entire experience of reality changes with it. This is how the Matrix operates, by controlling the vibration of collective perception. Through repetition, fear, and trauma, it entrains humanity to a narrow frequency band. From that point on, people see only what the system allows them to see. It's a kind of hypnotic trance, reinforced daily through media and culture. Television, advertising, education, politics all serve the same purpose: to program the subconscious mind with a manufactured consensus. It tells us what is real, what is possible, and what is crazy. And anything that threatens the illusion is labeled insanity. That is the ultimate defense mechanism of the Matrix: ridicule. Once you laugh at an idea, you no longer examine it. The gate closes and the prison stays intact. Throughout history, those who glimpsed beyond the illusion were branded heretics, lunatics, or traitors. They weren't insane, they were unplugging. They saw that the emperor of reality wears no clothes. The Matrix, at its core, is a self-perpetuating program. It creates fear to generate energy. That energy feeds the entities who sustain the system. And through that energy, they maintain the illusion of time, scarcity, and death, the three pillars of control. Time keeps us running toward the future or regretting the past, never present, never still. Scarcity convinces us that life is competition, that we must fight for survival. And death, the ultimate illusion, teaches us to fear the natural transformation of consciousness. But consciousness cannot die. It only changes form, like water turning to vapor. We are not the body, we are the awareness experiencing it. Once we understand this, fear loses its power, and the Matrix begins to collapse. The system's genius lies in making the prison invisible. We see walls where none exist. We feel trapped while the door stands wide open. The only thing locking us inside is the belief that we belong there. The architects of the Matrix know this well. They invest immense effort into defining what we believe to be normal. They shape language itself, because words are frequencies, and frequencies shape perception. If they can control the vocabulary of a culture, they can control its thoughts. War is peace. Ignorance is strength. Freedom is slavery. These aren't just slogans from dystopian fiction, they're the mantras of our world. They normalize contradiction, teaching the mind to surrender logic for comfort. Every advertisement, every headline, every official narrative is a code within the Matrix, a subtle instruction telling you how to feel, what to desire, what to fear. It's not about information, it's about vibration. Because when your emotional frequency is controlled, your reality is controlled. The media is not just a communication network, it's a psychic network. Every image of despair, every broadcast of war or tragedy feeds the collective field with the energy of fear. This energy, emitted by billions simultaneously, becomes the nourishment of the entities who dwell just beyond sight. The system we call society is, in truth, an energy harvesting machine. That's why awakening is the ultimate rebellion. When you awaken, you unplug from the fear frequency. You stop feeding the machine. You begin to create your own vibration, independent of external programming. But awakening is not easy. The Matrix defends itself through emotional manipulation. It whispers, stay asleep, be normal, conform. It uses ridicule to silence curiosity and fear to punish deviation. Most people will defend their captors rather than face the terror of freedom. To see beyond the Matrix, you must be willing to question everything, even the nature of the self that questions. You must ask, who is the I that perceives this world? Where does perception end and creation begin? The answer is unsettling yet liberating. There is no boundary. Consciousness is both the observer and the observed. Reality is not happening to us, it's happening through us. Every thought, every belief, every expectation projects its frequency into the field and manifests as experience. The Matrix is not something done to humanity. It's something humanity is co-creating moment by moment. This realization is the first crack in the illusion. Because once we take responsibility for our perception, the controller slows their leverage. We stop being victims of circumstance and become authors of reality. The illusion was never external. It was always within. The challenge now is not to destroy the matrix, but to transcend it. Because fighting illusion only strengthens it. Resistance is still participation in the game. True freedom lies not in battle, but in awakening. In realizing that the prison walls exist only in the mind. Every day offers a choice. Remain asleep in the dream of control, or awaken to the infinite field beyond it. One choice feeds the system, the other dissolves it. And once the illusion fades, you begin to see the pattern of light behind the shadow, the stillness behind the vibration, the oneness behind the multiplicity. That oneness, pure, undivided consciousness, is the only truth. Everything else is part of the simulation, a story told to keep you small. The matrix will not end through revolution. It will end through remembrance. Because the moment humanity remembers that it is infinite awareness experiencing a temporary illusion, the frequency shifts and the program crashes. That is the awakening. That is the beginning of freedom. What if everything we touch, everything we see, everything we believe to be solid isn't solid at all? What if the ground beneath our feet, the walls that surround us, even the body we inhabit, are nothing more than holographic projections, patterns of information decoded by the brain into what we call the physical world? This is not a fantasy. It is the deepest truth hidden in plain sight, that reality is not built from matter, but from frequency, vibration organized into form by consciousness. In other words, the universe is a hologram. A hologram begins not with substance, but with light. In laboratories, when a laser beam is split into two, one half reflecting off an object, the other directed onto a recording plate, their meeting creates an interference pattern, a field of ripples. Look at that plate, and you see only swirls of meaningless waves. But shine a laser through it, and a three-dimensional image appears, an illusion of depth and form floating in empty space. This is how a hologram works. Information translated into visible reality by light. Now imagine that on a cosmic scale. Every particle, every star, every human being is a holographic projection within a boundless field of consciousness, light transforming frequency into form. Matter, as physics tells us, is almost entirely empty space. If an atom were the size of a cathedral, its nucleus would be smaller than a grain of sand. Everything else is vibration, information, held together not by solidity, but by resonance. The body you see in the mirror is not who you are. It is a lens through which infinite consciousness experiences the illusion of separation. Your senses translate waveforms into color, sound, texture, and taste. But none of these exist outside your perception. They exist only as frequencies, decoded and rendered by your mind like a biological holographic projector. When you look at a tree, photons, particles of light, bounce off its surface and strike your retina. But what your eyes capture are not colors or shapes. They are electrical impulses. Your brain interprets those signals and creates the image you see. The tree does not exist out there as you perceive it. It exists as information, rendered internally by your consciousness. Reality is not external, it is participatory. This understanding is ancient, yet modern science has only begun to discover it. Quantum physicists have proven that the act of observation affects the outcome of experiments. Particles exist as waves of probability until they are observed, and then they collapse into a single location in space and time. In other words, consciousness chooses reality. Every object you encounter, every building, mountain, and star is a manifestation of consciousness observing itself. Reality is not fixed. It is fluid, shifting in harmony with collective belief. That belief, that collective perception, forms the blueprint of our shared world. The holographic model reveals a breathtaking truth. Each fragment of the hologram contains the whole. Cut a holographic image in half, and each piece still contains the complete picture, only smaller. In the same way, each human being contains the entire universe within. Every cell of your body carries the full blueprint of creation. Every thought, every emotion echoes across the entire field of existence. This means separation is an illusion. What you do to another, you do to yourself. What you think of the world becomes. The boundaries we see between you and me, between light and shadow, life and death, are nothing more than distortions in the field, necessary illusions that allow consciousness to experience itself from different perspectives. But there is a danger in forgetting the holographic nature of reality. When we mistake the projection for the projector, we become trapped in the illusion. We believe the hologram is real, and forget that we are the light creating it. This is the essence of the Matrix, the mind enslaved by its own projection. And it is no accident. The manipulators of perception understand the mechanics of this holographic field. They know that if they can control collective belief, they can control the hologram itself. They do not need to control matter, they only need to control thought. Because thought creates vibration, vibration shapes energy, and energy manifests as reality. Every structure of control, religion, politics, money, media, is built upon this principle. They seed belief systems into the collective field, knowing those beliefs will solidify into experience. They tell you what is possible and what is impossible, what is sane and what is insane. And once you accept those parameters, your consciousness dutifully projects them into the hologram. You live within the boundaries they have drawn, never realizing the walls were made of thought. But belief cuts both ways. If consciousness can be programmed into submission, it can also be liberated. When you change your internal frequency, your emotional and mental vibration, you change what you perceive and therefore what you experience. That is the secret mystics, sages, and quantum pioneers have all pointed to. Reality is not discovered, it is created. So, what does it mean for the physical world to be holographic? It means there is no true solidity, only patterns of frequency held together by awareness. It means the past and future exist simultaneously within the field, accessible through altered states of consciousness. It means telepathy, synchronicity, and intuition are not supernatural. They are natural functions of a unified holographic field. And most importantly, it means you're not a prisoner within the hologram. You are its architect. The manipulators maintain their dominion by keeping humanity's vibration low, bound to the lower frequencies of fear, guilt, and shame. These emotional states act as static, distorting our ability to perceive the infinite layers of reality. When consciousness vibrates higher, through compassion, curiosity, and love, the hologram shifts. New possibilities appear, new timelines open, and the illusion of separation begins to fade. That is why awakening feels like remembering. You're not learning something new. You're removing the distortion that hid the truth. The hologram remains, but now you see it for what it is, a canvas upon which consciousness paints experience. Every great spiritual teacher spoke of this truth in different words. The kingdom of heaven is within. As above, so below. Reality is illusion, albeit a persistent one. Each phrase points to the same revelation, that the universe is a self-aware hologram, and we are both its creators and its creations. When you understand this, miracles are no longer miracles. They are simply moments when the illusion bends to the will of awakened consciousness. Walking on fire without burns, spontaneous healing, telekinesis. These are not violations of natural law, they are expressions of higher understanding. They occur when the individual withdraws belief from the consensus hologram and aligns with the deeper field of possibility. The real question is not what is real. The real question is who is dreaming. Because if everything is a projection of consciousness, then the universe itself is a dream within a dream, awareness exploring itself through infinite form. You are that awareness. And the moment you know this, you step out of the illusion of limitation. The manipulators fear that knowledge. They fear a world where billions of people remember that the hologram bends to consciousness, not to control. Because when that happens, their power, built on belief, fear, and deception, will dissolve overnight. The architecture of illusion is intricate but fragile. It depends on your agreement, your participation. Withdraw your belief, and the structure collapses. Refuse the vibration of fear, and the hologram reconfigures itself into harmony. This is the power you've always had, the power to project, to create, to choose the frequency of your experience. Reality is not happening around you. It is happening through you. You are not a player in the hologram. You are the light that makes the image possible. And when enough of us remember this, the illusion will not need to be destroyed. It will simply dissolve, like a dream at dawn. Reality is perception, and perception can be programmed. This is the foundation of control, not armies, not prisons, not laws, but perception. Because if you can make people believe they are free, you never need to chain them. They will guard their own cage, defend their captors, and ridicule anyone who dares to question the walls. This is the grand deception of the modern age, the illusion of freedom. We are told we live in a democracy, that our votes shape destiny, that the media informs rather than manipulates. But what if all of it, politics, journalism, entertainment, even science, is part of a psychological matrix designed not to liberate thought, but to contain it? The ancient manipulators learned long ago that physical slavery provokes rebellion, but mental slavery endures. A body can be imprisoned, but a mind that believes it is free will never attempt escape. And so the architecture of control evolved, from chains of iron to chains of perception. Look at the world around you. Governments change. Faces change. Parties rise and fall. Yet the agenda never shifts. War continues. Debt deepens. Division thrives. Every election promises transformation and delivers repetition. Because the system isn't designed to evolve, it's designed to maintain the illusion of evolution. That illusion is the perfect mechanism. It gives the masses the ritual of choice, the emotional release of participation, while ensuring that all paths lead to the same destination, control. Two wings of the same bird, flapping in opposite directions but serving the same flight plan. While citizens argue over left and right, the real power, invisible and unelected, moves steadily forward, undisturbed. This is the genius of perception management. It turns opposition into performance. It turns rebellion into entertainment. It turns truth into conspiracy and lies into fact, all by controlling the flow of information. The media in this structure is not the watchdog of democracy. It is the guard dog of illusion. Every major network, newspaper, and platform operates under the same invisible hierarchy. Their role is not to inform, but to shape emotional frequency, to keep humanity vibrating in confusion, outrage, and fear. Headlines scream conflict. Screens pulse with violence. Every tragedy is amplified, every moment of peace ignored. Because peace doesn't sell, and more importantly, peace doesn't feed. Fear is the energy that powers the hologram, and the media is its generator. Notice the rhythm. Crisis, outrage, distraction, repeat. A new threat appears, public emotion spikes, collective focus narrows. And while attention is trapped in the spectacle, laws are passed, freedoms are stripped, wealth is transferred, wars are justified. When the cycle ends, a new crisis is born, and the dance begins again. This endless loop keeps humanity hypnotized, reacting instead of reflecting, consuming instead of creating. The Matrix doesn't need your belief, it needs your attention. Because wherever attention goes, energy flows. Every moment you spend outraged at the illusion, you energize it. The controllers understand that perception is reality. If you can define what people believe is real, you control their behavior without force. Tell them they are insignificant and they will act small. Tell them truth is unknowable and they will stop seeking. Tell them chaos is natural and they will surrender to it. This manipulation extends far beyond politics or media. It seeps into science, education, and culture itself. Children are taught to memorize, not a question. Students learn what to think, not how to think. Innovation is rewarded only when it reinforces the existing paradigm. Every institution functions as a filter, ensuring that only information compatible with the illusion reaches the public. And when someone dares to speak beyond the approved boundaries of thought, the system reacts instantly. The ridicule begins. The algorithms bury. The labels appear: conspiracy theorist, extremist, crazy. These words are the new weapons of social control, designed not to refute ideas but to silence them. It is a subtle, elegant censorship. No one needs to burn books when the human mind polices itself. This is how perception becomes prison. And the bars of that prison are invisible, made not of steel but of belief. The masses defend their conditioning with the same passion others defend truth, because to question reality is to threaten identity itself. The illusion of reality is maintained through repetition. Say a lie often enough and it becomes truth. Repeat a symbol long enough and it becomes sacred. This is why symbols saturate every aspect of culture. Logos, flags, slogans, anthems, frequencies disguised as design. They bypass logic and embed themselves directly into the subconscious, where they shape emotion and behavior without awareness. The architects of the illusion are not content to manipulate minds. They seek to rewrite human nature. Through technology, surveillance, and psychological engineering, they aim to merge man with machine, to digitize consciousness itself. The final frontier of control is not the body, but the soul rendered into code. Every convenience offered by the system, every device, every app, every platform, is a thread in the web. The goal is total immersion, a reality where perception is mediated entirely by artificial systems. Once that happens, reality will no longer be organic. It will be programmable. And those who control the program will control perception itself. This is not prophecy. It is already unfolding. Every algorithm that decides what you see, every feed that decides what you know, every notification that decides what you feel, all are extensions of the same mechanism, the digitization of human thought. The Matrix has gone online. But the paradox remains. The deeper the illusion grows, the easier it becomes to see. Because the patterns repeat. Once you recognize the rhythm, you begin to sense the design beneath the chaos. The faces change, the crises evolve, but the agenda, the control of perception, stays constant. To see through this illusion is to take back the one power they cannot steal: awareness. Awareness cuts through, programming like light through fog. It dissolves lies without resistance. It exposes the invisible not by fighting darkness, but by illuminating it. The illusion of reality loses its grip when you stop believing that truth comes from outside you. The moment you realize that truth is resonance, that it lives in vibration, not approval, you step beyond their age of manipulation. Because truth doesn't require consensus. It simply is. This is why awakening is not rebellion. It is remembrance. It is remembering that reality is not dictated by governments, media, or even science, but by consciousness itself. And consciousness cannot be censored. Every time a human being chooses inner knowing over external noise, the hologram shifts. Each awakening sends ripples through the collective field, weakening the illusion, brightening the grid. The false reality, sustained for millennia by belief and fear, begins to flicker, like a projection running out of power. The illusion collapses not through war but through awareness. Because once perception changes, reality must follow. You are not here to fight the system. You are here to see through it, and in seeing, transcend it. That is how illusion ends, not with destruction, but with awakening. Every illusion has an expiration date. No deception, no matter how vast or ancient, can survive the light of awareness forever. And that light, after ages of shadow, is rising again. Across the world, something extraordinary is happening. People are beginning to sense that reality is not what it seems. The whispers of truth that once echoed in hidden corners are now rumbling through the collective field. The sleep is breaking. The dream is ending. This is the awakening, not a revolution of blood and fire, but of perception. Not a struggle for power, but a remembering of power already possessed. The awakening is not about overthrowing governments or destroying systems. It is about outgrowing them. For thousands of years, humanity has been hypnotized by limitation, taught to identify with the body, to worship authority, to fear death. Every structure of control, every belief system, every ritual of obedience has existed to keep consciousness small. But consciousness is not small. It is infinite. And infinity cannot be contained. The first signs of awakening are subtle. A questioning glance at the news. A quiet realization that something feels wrong in the rhythm of daily life. A sense that beneath the surface of normality, something vast and hidden stirs. At first, awakening feels like disorientation. The old reality begins to crumble, and the new one has not yet appeared. But that chaos is birth, the shedding of illusion. Those who awaken first often feel alone. They see through the mask of society, and what once comforted them now feels hollow. But this loneliness is an illusion too. Because as each individual awakens, their frequency shifts and they begin to resonate with others on the same path. The scattered sparks of awareness find each other, and together they ignite into a collective flame. The controllers fear this above all else. They can manipulate isolated minds, but not unified consciousness. They know that once enough people awaken, the illusion collapses under its own weight. This is why division is their weapon of choice. Race, religion, gender, politics, endless categories to keep humanity fragmented. A divided species cannot realize its collective power. But unity, not as uniformity, but as shared awareness, is the end of control. Awakening is the remembering that all life is one consciousness, expressing itself through infinite forms. The flower, the storm, the heartbeat, the star, all are patterns of the same living field. Separation was only a dream, a necessary illusion for experience to occur. But now, the dream has run its course. The cycle of ignorance is closing, and a new epoch of awareness dawns. This awakening is not comfortable. To see through illusion is to watch the familiar world dissolve. Systems crumble. Beliefs fail. Identities disintegrate. What once felt solid becomes transparent. But this collapse is liberation, not loss. The false world must fall for the true one to emerge. You are witnessing that collapse now. The corruption of institutions, the exposure of hidden networks, the unraveling of once trusted authorities, these are not random events. They are symptoms of a dying frequency. The old world is disintegrating because its foundation was built on deception. Truth is light, and light disintegrates shadow. That which cannot withstand truth cannot survive. To those still asleep, this process looks like chaos. They see instability, conflict, and destruction. But from a higher vantage, it is purification. The false world must burn away so that the real world can breathe again. You cannot build truth on lies. The old structures, political, economic, spiritual, must collapse because they belong to the frequency of fear. The new world vibrates with freedom, and freedom cannot be governed by deception. Many ask, when will it happen? When will the system fall? But the system is already falling. Not with thunder, but with silence, a quiet revolution unfolding in hearts and minds. Each awakening is a demolition of illusion. Every realization weakens the field of control. It does not require mass protest or violent overthrow. It requires awareness, multiplied, amplified, unstoppable. This awakening cannot be forced, it must be remembered. And remembrance begins with stillness. When the noise of the world fades, the truth begins to whisper. In that silence, you realize that the universe is not outside you, it is within you. That realization is the seed of freedom, and awareness cannot be enslaved. It is untouchable, incorruptible, infinite. The moment you remember this, you step outside the reach of the matrix. The programs still run, the world still moves, but you no longer belong to it. You see it for what it is, a projection of consciousness, a school for awakening souls. Technology will serve consciousness instead of suppressing it. Education will awaken curiosity instead of extinguishing it. And governance, as we know it, will become obsolete, replaced by the natural harmony of awakened beings living in truth. But to reach that stage, humanity must pass through revelation. Every illusion must be exposed. Every hidden truth must surface. And that exposure is underway. The age of deception is ending, and the age of transparency has begun. You will see more chaos before calm, more exposure before restoration. Likewise, the illusions of the old world must dissolve before the new frequency can stabilize. And like all births, it is messy, painful, and magnificent. The awakening cannot be reversed. Once consciousness expands, it never contracts. Once eyes open, they cannot unsee. The controllers can delay, distract, distort, but they cannot stop what has already begun. Because awakening is not a movement or an ideology. It is evolution itself, and you are part of it. Each realization, each moment of clarity, each act of courage contributes to the global shift. The frequency of the planet is rising. The illusion is thinning. And the old world, the world of hierarchy, fear, and division, is fading like a dream at dawn. The awakening will not be televised because it cannot be contained by screens or headlines. It will unfold quietly, invisibly, within the hearts of billions, until one day the world looks the same but feels entirely different. The light will have returned, and humanity will remember what it forgot, that we are not separate fragments of consciousness, but one infinite field dreaming itself into form. The collapse of the false world is not tragedy. It is triumph. Because in the ashes of illusion, truth is reborn. And the truth is simple, eternal, and unstoppable. We are the dreamers, not the dream. We are the creators, not the created. We are the light, and the light has remembered itself. The age of deception is ending. The age of awakening has begun. The illusions of control, the hierarchies of deception, the shadows that ruled perception, all dissolve into the light of remembrance. Because truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. You are not a fragment of creation. You are creation itself observing through human eyes. The stars are not distant. They are reflections of the infinite awareness that you are. The universe is not outside you. It is your mirror, reminding you of what you have always been, timeless, boundless, eternal. The systems of control may tremble. The false world may crumble. But what remains is truth, unshakable, unchanging, infinite. You are that truth. You are the consciousness that dreamed the illusion, walked through it, and awakened from it. And now you return to the source, not as a seeker, but as the found. As you leave this journey tonight, remember, awakening is not an event. It is a continuous unfolding, a quiet expansion of awareness with every choice, every breath, every act of love. Carry that awareness with you. See through the noise. Live as light in a world still learning to remember itself. If this message resonated with you, if it stirred something ancient within, consider supporting this awakening. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Share it with others ready to see beyond the illusion. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice adds to the growing frequency of awareness that is reshaping our world. The awakening has begun. And now it moves through you. Because truth does not belong to one. It belongs to all. The illusion ends where awareness begins. And awareness is forever.